Hi students, this is Sucharata teaching economics to class 12 and here I am with the first chapter named Introduction. There are two courses in class 12th economics, which is microeconomics and macroeconomics. One dealing with an individual and the other dealing with the economy as such. So, we shall be doing both of them, the microeconomics and the macroeconomics. But here I start with the introduction of microeconomics, and before I start with this chapter, which is in fact an introduction to the entire syllabus, I am going to explain few difficult words or the new words which will keep coming in the chapter again and again. The first word is resources. In fact, all the goods and the services which are there and which are used to earn money is called as a resource, which means those goods and services which enable an individual, community, and thus they earn their living by it is a resource. Now, in this I spoke about two words, goods and services. So, let me tell you about goods and then services. Now, what is goods? All the physical and tangible items which can be used in transaction to earn a living or to earn profit is termed as goods in economics. Then is services. Services are the intangible things which we do to earn our living, like the services of a doctor, the service of a teacher, are intangible services. Next is market economy and centrally planned economy and the mixed. Now, before I talk about all this, now let me explain what an economy is. Economy is a system in which we are able to earn our living when the transaction goes on in such manner that we are able to make profits, we are able to make money to earn our living is an economy. An economy are of different kinds. First of all, I talk about the market economy. Market economy is an economy which is also termed as the capitalist economy. It means that whatever transactions happen, whatever happens is just for profit. So, the sole motive in a market economy is making profit and profit alone. That's also called as the capitalist economy, where the function to do every work and provide service is based on sole factor, and that is making profit. Then we have the centrally planned economy. The centrally planned economy is an economy which is governed by the government. After independence in India, that is after 1947, it was more or less like a centrally planned economy in India. Now, in this, the government supervises, the government analyzes and thus makes programs for the upliftment of the economy. Thus, all the resources, whether tangible or intangible, are governed by the government. That is, it coordinates, supervises and functions in such a manner that people make money, earn their living. Then is the mixed economy. Now, mixed economy is in fact the economy in which we have both the government owned as well as the private owned enterprises, as we have in the India that we have today. That is, we have private ownerships and we have public ownerships. Both of them, when they function together, are of great help because both the profit making ventures and the service ventures or the welfare ventures go simultaneously, helping an individual to grow in a good manner. Then market. Market is a very important term for economics. Market doesn't mean, as a layman would say, shops where you go and buy things. It is not so. It is the free interaction between the people wherein they decide the motive, they decide the procedure, they decide the system by which money can be generated. That is market. Now, as far as economy is concerned, we must remember that production, consumption and such factors are very, very important, because it is through this that the cycle of economy keeps running. So, to study economics, we must remember that economics deals with money, money generation, money, how it has to be spent, the kind of economies which are there, and what are the factors which help us in generating money. Now, let me start with the chapter and give you an introduction to it. Let's deal with the situation of a simple economy. Now, what you see around is that there are people living who follow different profession. It could be a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, a farmer, and let's pick up a situation. For example, a farmer, he has some bullocks, he has a piece of land, and he has to decide what he has to do in order to earn a good living. Now, this means that the needs of all the individuals, whether they are rich or poor, big or small, there are three basic needs, and those are food, clothing and shelter. Now, which is more important to an individual is different. So, here we have to see that the person has limited resources. Now, all of us, whether we are rich or poor, we have limited resources. Nobody can have unlimited resources for his needs. Now, the study of economics is how to make correct use of these resources. The word economics comes from the Greek word okou and nomos, which meant managing a house. And now, economics has a wider meaning wherein we mean managing the economy of the country. But the role of the individual is equally important, and that is why we study both micro and macroeconomics. So, as I was giving you the example of a farmer wherein he has few acres of land, he has bullocks, and he has to decide which crop he has to grow, which crop will give him more profit. So, the decision how to use his resources and what has to be grown, that is what are the uses of his resources and for whom is he going to produce, which I will be talking in detail later on. But basically, if I see here, whether he wants to produce just for his family, the needs that he has, or does he want to produce something like a commercial crop wherein he can earn more and thus buy the things which he needs. So, this simple situation wherein every household decides that the limited resources one has, how are we going to make the best use of those resources is simple economics. But when the country comes in large, that is the time that the resources are to be managed in such a way that everybody should get an equal share and thus everybody should grow. Well, these limited resources have led to the use of science called economics. Planning is very, very important, because unless we do not plan, we will not be sure what are we wanting and how are we going to plan and what is the outcome of all this. So, economics is in fact the study, as I said, dealing with situations that tell us that these are the resources and now make the best use of these resources. Another example that I would like to give here is of a teacher or of a professor or of a lawyer, wherein he earns some money and he feels that this is the money he has and he has to make use of his money in such a way that he gets the best comfort, the best needs out of that money. So, whether I talk about an individual or I talk about the country at large, the only thing that we have understood is economics is helping us to become organized as far as resources are concerned, because resources are limited and the wise use of these resources will lead to good situation both for an individual and for the country. Let us talk about the central problems of an economy. Now, as far as economy is concerned, there are three basic problems which we studied earlier also, and those are what to produce, how to produce and for whom to produce. Now, if I talk about what to produce, if I talk of an individual and if I talk of a farmer, then he has to decide that the piece of land which he has, whether he wants to grow wheat or he wants to grow cotton. Now, as far as a country is concerned, an economy is concerned, it has to decide what has to produce in a manner that does it want to go for mechanized industries or does he want to go for small scale industries. So, here lies the problem of choice, and the choice has to be made because the uses or the resources are limited. If there were unlimited resources, then we could be growing both cotton, wheat, having also the cottage industries, we could be having the big industries, the iron and steel. But here what to produce remains important because the resources are limited. So, the first important question that comes to the mind of an individual and of the country as such is, which production is going to give them the best results. And this changes from time to time and with need to need, from area to area, and as I said, from an individual to an individual. Next is how to produce. If I talk of the farmer as such, he has to decide whether he shall be using bullocks or he shall be using machines. Meaning to say that whether he has sufficient money to buy the machines or whether the bullocks, even if he has money and he does not want to spend on them and feels that bullocks are sufficient for the small land that he has, or he feels that the bullocks are not right choice for the vast land that he has. Similarly, as far as the country is concerned, it has to decide whether it is going to do the production in which manner. Is it going to follow the old methods of production, or they are going to come out with new technologies? They are going to make the people learn the new systems. So, how the production has to be dealt is also another important question which an individual and a country has to decide, and thus it remains the central problem of the economy. Next is for whom to produce. For whom to produce in a simple situation as a farmer, as I said, is that of course it has to produce for itself, self-sufficient, but it could be that it wants to sell in the market and make big profits. As far as the economy is concerned, it has to decide that what it wants, that is to say the rent, the wages, the interest and the profit. When it becomes national income, that national income, how it has to be distributed amongst the people. The generation of income which has been done, how it is to be distributed in such a manner that all get an equitable part in it, that everybody is benefited. Now, the government might feel that elementary education and basic health, these are the two places wherein they need to spend more than the other sectors, and rightly so, because these are the two basic sectors wherein the government has to pour in more money. Well, so when we have such major problems of what to produce, how to produce and for whom to produce, then that remains the central problems of an economy. And as we go into details of this problem, we will know that much more than an individual, it is the country which has to give a big thought, which has to decide how to go about with their limited resources. Now, before independence, the Britishers wanted that the production should be such that it helps their country, that is providing of raw material. But that could not be the need today. We could be looking forward to the production which helps us in big industries. Well, again, for Britishers, the basic health and the elementary education could have been of no significance. But with the welfare state that we have, with our own government that we have, this remains a very important factor. So, as I said, the time, the wants of the people and other factors make changes in what to produce, how to produce and for whom to produce.